dust rising off the horizon. A streak of metal carving through sand where no sports car should ever go. Tires claw at dunes, suspension dancing over chaos, an engine howling against the rules of its own lineage. It's the kind of machine that makes you question what a performance car is supposed to be. Elegant and low-slung, or rugged and fearless. Somewhere between desert rally grit and supercar poise, this creation dares to say both. Built not for lap records but for freedom, it rewrote the boundaries of where beauty and brutality meet. The story behind it is one of heritage, rebellion, and engineering nerve. A gamble that turned skepticism into obsession. By the end, you'll understand how an icon of precision found its wild side and why it might just redefine what passion means on four wheels. Stick around, hit like and subscribe, and tell us in the comments what legend you want to see next. The Porsche 911 Dakar begins as a contradiction. A machine born from the smooth precision of asphalt, suddenly thrust into the unpredictable chaos of dirt and gravel. To understand why it exists, you have to rewind the clock to the idea that the 911 was never meant to leave the tarmac. For decades, its story was written in corners of racetracks, not corners of deserts. Yet the seed for the Dakar was planted long ago in the 1980s, when Porsche's engineers were chasing endurance glory. The 911 Safari rally cars, raised and armored, were improbable heroes in an era when off-road meant utilitarian, not luxurious. They didn't just compete. They survived brutal conditions and etched a new kind of legend into the 911's DNA. Fast forward nearly 40 years, and the Porsche 911 Dakar revives that spirit, but this time for the road, not the rally. This wasn't a marketing gimmick or nostalgia play. It was Porsche's way of asking a deeper question. What if performance could mean adventure instead of lap times? Inside Stuttgart's design offices, that question sparked a civil war of ideas. The purists wanted to protect the coupe's identity, its sleek lines, its low center of gravity, its purity of purpose. But another faction saw a future where sports cars could no longer survive on tracks alone. Cities were choking, regulations were tightening, and the golden age of unrestricted speed was fading. They believed the answer lay not in going faster, but in going farther, beyond pavement, beyond predictability, beyond expectation. The Porsche 911 Dakar emerged from that tension as both tribute and rebellion. Its design brief was deceptively simple. Make a 911 that could handle the same abuse as a rally raid machine without losing the soul of the original. The result wasn't just a lifted coupe. Engineers reimagined suspension geometry, recalibrated electronic stability controls, and added a dual-stage lift system capable of clearing obstacles that would cripple a normal sports car. Yet the miracle wasn't in the numbers, it was in the feel. The 911 Dakar still handled like a 911, only with a kind of playful resilience that encouraged you to keep your foot down over washboard roads. From behind the wheel, you could sense the absurdity of it, and the genius. The cockpit felt familiar, the same sloping dash, the same intimate seating position, but surrounded by textures built to take punishment. Underneath, protective panels guarded vital organs, while bespoke tires balanced grip and give, transforming rough ground into another kind of racetrack. Even the aerodynamics had to be rethought. A roof-mounted storage system replaced spoilers, trading downforce for practicality, a visual reminder that this car was designed for journeys, not just drives. When the 911 Dakar was revealed, the world didn't know how to react. Purists frowned. Enthusiasts cheered. Journalists argued whether Porsche had lost its mind or found its soul. But Porsche didn't care about approval, it cared about emotion. And for all its contradictions, the Dakar carried an emotional clarity few modern cars achieve. It was designed for the kind of driver who valued exploration over efficiency, sensation over specification. In a world obsessed with metrics, that was an act of defiance. To build the Dakar, Porsche didn't start from scratch. It began with the 911 Carrera 4 GTS, already an all-wheel drive marvel and built outward. That foundation allowed for structural reinforcements that wouldn't compromise handling. Engineers added height, not heft, by using lightweight materials wherever possible. Aluminum panels, thinner glass, and carbon fiber components ensured the Dakar didn't bloat under its rugged armor. Every inch was a negotiation between strength and weight. Even the tires, Pirelli Scorpion all-terrains, were tuned exclusively for this model, blending rally toughness with road civility. On gravel, they clawed. On asphalt, they whispered. The engineering challenge was immense, but Porsche thrives on paradoxes. Each solution uncovered a new one. Higher clearance meant higher center of gravity, which threatened the handling precision that defined every 911. To counter it, they refined torque distribution and added intelligent traction systems that could read the terrain in milliseconds. The result was not a compromised sports car, but an evolved one, adapted to an era when adventure might be the last true performance metric. Owners describe the 911 Dakar as liberating, more approachable, more usable, less precious. It invites you to explore without fear of curbs or potholes, without the anxiety of scraping carbon fiber. In a sense, it democratizes the 911 experience, making performance less about perfection and more about participation. You don't need a racetrack. You just need curiosity. And that shift in philosophy is what makes the 911 Dakar more than a novelty. It's a redefinition. The car's name, of course, pays homage to the legendary Paris-Dakar Rally, one of motorsport's most punishing tests of endurance. But it also signals something broader, Porsche's belief that the 911's future depends on its ability to evolve without apology. As electrification looms, as roads become more regulated, and as traditional sports cars fight for relevance, the Dakar offers a blueprint, one that balances heritage with boldness. By combining rally capability with daily usability, it whispers to the next generation of enthusiasts that passion doesn't have to be fragile. The Porsche 911 Dakar isn't just about where it can go. It's about what it represents, a reminder that progress sometimes means getting a little dirty. And as its tires spin through dust and disbelief alike, it sets the stage for a new question. How did the world respond to this rolling contradiction once it hit the road? When the Porsche 911 Dakar finally reached showrooms, curiosity turned into obsession. Reviewers who expected a novelty act found a revelation instead, a car that could leap from asphalt to gravel without skipping a beat. The Porsche 911 Dakar didn't just prove itself, it challenged the hierarchy of performance. Suddenly, lap times weren't the only measure of greatness. Here was a machine that felt equally at home sliding through sand or gliding through a mountain pass. Its arrival forced enthusiasts to confront a truth many didn't want to admit: versatility had become the new thrill. In the United States, where sprawling landscapes and mixed terrains dominate, the idea of an off-road capable sports car struck a nerve. Buyers who once dismissed traditional exotics as impractical saw the Dakar as an escape pod from the constraints of ordinary ownership. It wasn't about status, it was about story. Every dirt trail became a personal proving ground. Yet behind the hype, the Porsche 911 Dakar faced real skepticism. Was this truly innovation or just another clever limited edition cash grab? Porsche's reputation for authenticity was on the line. But as test drives rolled in, the critics quieted. The car's engineering integrity was unmistakable. Journalists drove it through desert stages and icy back roads, reporting that it handled unpredictability with a grace no SUV could replicate. The all-wheel drive system, originally tuned for precision driving, felt reborn, managing slides with intuitive finesse. Even the ride comfort, long a sore point for performance cars, earned praise. The Dakar absorbed punishment without dulling feedback, an almost magical balance between softness and control. That's what separated it from copycats. When other manufacturers tried to jump on the off-road supercar trend, they often relied on gimmicks: extra height, flashy tires, marketing noise. The 911 Dakar, in contrast, operated with quiet competence. It didn't shout its credentials. It proved them. You could drive it to work, tackle a fire road at lunch, and take the scenic route home. It became a symbol of what modern engineering could achieve when heritage and imagination worked together instead of fighting. In the aftermarket world, tuners couldn't resist. Some saw the 911 Dakar as the perfect canvas, a chance to push the concept further with roof tents, rally lights, even more aggressive lift kits. Others argued it was already perfect out of the box, and modifying it was like repainting a masterpiece. Either way, it inspired creativity. The community that formed around the Dakar wasn't the typical supercar crowd. It was more adventurous, more grounded, more willing to get dirty. That alone marked a cultural shift. Suddenly, owning a high-performance car didn't mean fearing a speed bump or parking garage ramp. It meant freedom, something no spreadsheet of horsepower figures could capture. But the Porsche 911 Dakar's deeper significance lay in how it altered the trajectory of Porsche itself. For decades, the company had walked a tightrope between tradition and innovation, carefully updating the 911 without betraying its essence. The Dakar gave Porsche permission to play again. It opened the door to experimentation, to emotion over optimization. The success of the Dakar hinted that buyers were hungry for vehicles that felt human, imperfect in a way that invited participation. And in a market drifting toward automation and silence, that was gold. Demand outstripped supply almost instantly. Production numbers were limited, but interest was global. The US became one of the largest markets, with allocations selling out before many even saw one in person. Porsche's configurator couldn't keep up with the enthusiasm. Buyers debated liveries, roof baskets, and paint schemes inspired by the 1984 rally-winning 953. Those colors, white, blue, red, and gold, weren't just nostalgia. They were badges of courage, signaling that the owner understood the lineage. In the secondary market, prices soared above MSRP, proving that rarity and relevance could coexist. Some owners chose to preserve their cars in climate-controlled garages. Others did the opposite, documenting their journeys across deserts and mountain passes. Social media turned the 911 Dakar into a rolling narrative, each dust-caked photo reinforcing its reputation as the anti-garage queen. Porsche noticed, and the industry took notes. Rivals quietly began exploring their own ruggedized sports cars. A rival brand hinted at a lifted supercar prototype. Another toyed with all-terrain packages for grand tours. The message was clear. The 911 Dakar had tapped into something primal. It wasn't about going faster, it was about going anywhere. Even in motorsport circles, whispers began, could the Dakar formula return to competition form? Porsche remained coy but didn't dismiss the idea. After all, the car's very name came from rally raids, and its hardware was capable of much more than Sunday drives. A limited series of privateer entries in off-road events seemed inevitable. The Dakar had rekindled Porsche's adventurous side, the same spirit that once sent air-cooled racers hurtling across African dunes. And it came at the perfect time. As electric vehicles dominate headlines, the Dakar stood as a reminder that visceral mechanical joy still had an audience. Its flat-six engine, alive with sound and texture, felt almost rebellious in an era of silent acceleration. Yet even that will change. Future iterations may blend electrification with off-road DNA, marrying sustainability with spirit. If that happens, the 911 Dakar will be remembered as the pivot point, the moment Porsche proved that performance evolution could include fun. Still, the car wasn't without its critics. Some argued the price was too high for what was, at its core, a modified sports car. Others pointed out that few owners would ever fully exploit its off-road capabilities. But those criticisms missed the point. The Dakar wasn't built to conquer trails. It was built to conquer assumptions. It gave people permission to enjoy their cars again without the fear of fragility. In that sense, it was a social experiment disguised as a product. And its success told automakers that emotion still sells better than efficiency alone. As journalists compared the 911 Dakar to lifted super SUVs, a truth became obvious. No SUV, no matter how fast, could match the Dakar's intimacy with the road or the dirt. It wasn't just about clearance, it was about connection. The seating position, the steering feel, the way the rear engine dug in during acceleration, all unmistakably 911. The difference was psychological. Instead of fearing what lay beyond the pavement, drivers now looked for excuses to explore it. In the process, the Porsche 911 Dakar became something bigger than a limited edition. It became an attitude. The car invited people to reimagine what a sports car could be in a world where roads, seasons, and lifestyles don't fit the old template. And that shift didn't just resonate with enthusiasts. It resonated with the brand itself. The lessons learned from the Dakar began filtering into Porsche's future planning, from suspension design to adaptive systems intended for new markets. What started as a daring experiment evolved into a directional compass. And as the dust settled, literally and figuratively, the question wasn't whether the Dakar belonged in the 911 family. It was how far that family could go from here. The Porsche 911 Dakar may have started as an experiment, but by the time the last one rolled off the line, it had become a manifesto on wheels. The Porsche 911 Dakar embodied the idea that a machine rooted in precision and luxury could also be rugged, spontaneous, and profoundly human. In its wake, even the most traditional Porsche owners began to reconsider what authentic performance really meant. For decades, the 911 had been the poster child of refinement, the perfect tool for perfect drivers. The Dakar flipped that script entirely. It celebrated imperfection, encouraging you to push beyond comfort zones to find joy in the unpredictable. It was Porsche admitting, in its own quiet way, that the world had changed and that the thrill of driving had to change with it. The brand's evolution was already visible. The Porsche 911 Dakar's influence extended into how Porsche thought about future products, especially as electrification loomed. Engineers realized that emotion, not just efficiency, would define the next generation of performance vehicles. You can see traces of the Dakar philosophy in concept designs that prioritize adaptability and texture over sterile precision. Even as the automotive landscape shifts toward autonomous and electric futures, the Dakar remains a reminder that the heart of driving lies in challenge, not convenience. What makes the Porsche 911 Dakar's legacy so fascinating is that it bridges worlds that rarely meet. It's both a luxury item and a survival tool, both nostalgic and futuristic. When you drive one, you feel history beneath your fingertips, the lineage of every air-cooled 911. Yet you also feel the promise of something new. It tells drivers that adventure isn't a side quest. It's the point. And in doing so, it redefines the identity of an icon without betraying it. For collectors, the Porsche 911 Dakar represents a tangible link to a golden age of mechanical emotion. For drivers, it's a passport to freedom. For Porsche itself, it's a proof of concept, a validation that risk can pay off if it's executed with authenticity. That balance is rare in the modern auto world, where algorithms often dictate direction. The Dakar was not born from spreadsheets. It was born from curiosity, and that's why it matters. Even years from now, when future models run silently on electricity and code, enthusiasts will look back at the 911 Dakar as a symbol of rebellion. It was the car that dared to ask whether speed alone still defined greatness, and answered with a resounding no. Owners still share stories that sound almost mythic, climbing snowy passes, exploring desert trails, outrunning storms. These aren't staged adventures. They're personal pilgrimages. Each trip reinforces the car's philosophy. That motion, in its purest form, is freedom. In that sense, the Porsche 911 Dakar isn't just a performance vehicle. It's a cultural statement. It proves that progress and nostalgia can coexist if you build with purpose. Even its imperfections, the limited production, the premium price, add to its aura. Scarcity makes it special, but soul makes it timeless. In the collector market, the Dakar has already begun to cement its place as one of the defining 911s of the 21st century. It's not the fastest, not the rarest, but perhaps the most fearless. Its combination of refinement and ruggedness will influence how future 911s are judged, not by how close they stick to tradition, but by how boldly they expand it. For a brand as storied as Porsche, that's no small evolution. The Porsche 911 Dakar will be remembered as the model that reminded the world why people fell in love with the 911 in the first place. Not for perfection, but for the feeling. It turned skepticism into excitement, turned fear of change into curiosity. And that's the greatest achievement of all, turning the unknown into something we can't wait to drive again. The story of the 911 Dakar closes with a quiet irony. It was built for rough terrain, but its real journey was emotional. It led drivers back to something we've nearly forgotten in our chase for power and technology, the sheer joy of control, the heartbeat behind the steering wheel. As the dust settles, one truth remains. The Porsche 911 Dakar didn't just conquer the off-road, it conquered doubt. And in doing so, it left behind a roadmap for the future, one paved not with perfection, but with passion. For American enthusiasts, the Porsche 911 Dakar is more than a curiosity. It's a tangible reminder that freedom still exists in a world of regulations and range anxiety. The Porsche 911 Dakar brought back something visceral, the idea that a sports car could be driven anywhere, not just admired from a driveway. In the US, where landscapes shift from canyon roads to endless plains, that concept resonates deeply, but owning one comes with realities. With production capped around 2,000 units worldwide, US allocation was razor thin. Most examples sold out instantly, and resale prices quickly doubled. Still, a few lucky owners used theirs exactly as intended. Gravel roads, snowy trails, even cross-country trips that prove this isn't a fragile collectible. For the rest of us, it's a symbol of what modern performance should be. Not exclusionary, but expressive. The 911 Dakar's reliability reputation is reassuring. Beneath the rugged additions lies the proven Carrera 4 GTS platform, meaning maintenance is more about commitment than complexity. Parts and service remain accessible through standard Porsche networks, though unique components like its lift system and tires require specialized care. For anyone considering import in the future, emissions and safety compliance won't be a major hurdle. This car was built for global markets, including North America. Still, values are unlikely to drop enough for casual ownership. The Dakar has already achieved modern classic status. Its collectability comes not just from scarcity, but from significance. The Porsche 911 Dakar marked a turning point, where luxury brands began rethinking performance through the lens of exploration. It's the kind of car that rewrites what dream car means, less about perfection, more about potential. And for US buyers, it stands as both a status symbol and a statement of individuality. Even those who'll never own one can feel its ripple effect. It's influencing the design language of upcoming models, from lighter, more adaptable chassis to traction systems designed for unpredictability rather than just speed. It's shaping how automakers think about the balance between sophistication and spontaneity. That's the real legacy, an ethos that makes performance personal again. The Porsche 911 Dakar teaches us that adventure doesn't start when the road ends. It starts when you stop caring about where it does. Whether you're carving through desert trails or simply taking the long way home, that mindset is what keeps driving alive. In the end, the 911 Dakar's greatest victory isn't measured in horsepower, sales, or collector value. It's in how it reminded us that cars can still surprise us, still challenge us, still make us feel alive behind the wheel. And that feeling, untamed, unfiltered, unmistakably human, is what every driver secretly wants. The Porsche 911 Dakar just had the courage to deliver it.